Welcome to all Caribbean entrepreneurs. If you've been ready and waiting to take your business digital and get paid online while you sip something strong on the beach, this podcast is for you. We'll hear from the Caribbean's finest entrepreneurs on topics like e-commerce, business development, brand building, social media, their wins and failures. This is the only place in the region helping you navigate the digital age from the Caribbean's perspective. This is Digipreneur FM. And now, let's give it up for the Digiboss himself, Mr. Karan Rose.
Thank you to everybody tuning in to another episode of the Digipreneur FM podcast. And as usual, it is your boy, Mr. Rose, and we are back with another episode. So DJ, can you fade us all the way out because we gotta talk to the people. Yo, it is Monday, April 24th. And you know what, folks? I got to apologize. For the past couple months, we have been a bit out of the loop with the podcast in terms of we haven't produced many episodes in the last since about March, right? We have, let me take a look. No, since February. We did a few episodes in February. We had none in March because March I was pretty much sick and out of it the entire month. And then we did an episode at the beginning of this month on April 5th. And it's just taken me a while to kind of get back into the swing of things with respects to producing content on all of my channels, because we haven't stopped producing content, but since I got sick back in March, I have definitely taken my time easing back into, just my regular scheduled stuff. And then there's been a lot happening for me as well, business-wise. I started a new role in March, but I got sick. I started the new role as the lead digital consultant to one of a pretty big company right here in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's been a lot of work that needs to be done. So a lot of my energy has been there, and then we also started my workshop series with Neil and Massey Credit Union. So for the past couple of weeks, every single Saturday, we have been working on helping a group of entrepreneurs, about 15 to 20 entrepreneurs, build their websites. And outside of the group sessions, I've also been providing one-on-one sessions because I realized real quickly there are some people where, again, they signed up for group sessions, but they might not necessarily get the most out of it in a group session, and they need additional help. And the goal really is to get everybody that has attended the workshop a fully functioning website for their brand or business. Not everybody has a business. Some just have a platform where they're looking to educate the people on, whatever it is that they're doing. And they need a platform to be able to host all of their content and all that good stuff, right? So outside of every single Saturday for the past month, and those sessions have been from like 9 a.m. to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Outside of the Saturday sessions, then, I'd be going to do work with my client, and then I'd come home, and then, from like 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., it's been one-on-one clients every single day for the past couple of weeks. So it's been a lot. And then outside of that, I've still been doing, workshops I've still been doing workshops at events. I still do my writing every single week for both the Jamaica Observer and the TT Newsday. And then, I'm still kind of posting content on social media, even though I have definitely scaled back this last month. I haven't really created much content. I've just kind of shared stuff on stories and whatnot, and I still haven't even shared, every single thing that I'm involved in doing right now, and mainly just because you know what, I have just really been, I've been really, what is the word I'm looking for? What is the word? I've been managing my energy. That's really what it is. I have been managing my energy. I have been managing, my own health and I just been, I just have not jumped back into the full swing of things as yet. And I felt like yesterday, I've had the weekend off. I did absolutely no work whatsoever in the least. I didn't touch my computer. I didn't pick up a book. I did nothing. And yesterday it really felt like it just hit me like, yo, we're going into May. Next week is May, and I'm ready. I'm ready to get back into the swing of things. And as more calls start coming in to start doing events, and I mean, you know what? And I feel kind of bad because this month, April, there was about six or seven events that I got calls for, and I turned everything down just because, again, like I just did not have the energy to add to the plate. Like, I'm already doing a lot, and it's things that I have committed to that have been in the works for some months, and I kind of just stuck to just doing that whilst mentally I get back to where I need to be to operate at a high level. But as May comes back in, it's time for me to jump out my whole self again and get back into the flow of things. And, the first place I had to ensure that I got back to is the podcast, the Digipreneur FM family. This has definitely been, one of my favorite places to be just because it's intimate for me. I get to, if you ever see me record, my lights are off. I light a candle. It's me and the microphone talking to you. And I love the fact that, podcasting is really the only form, is the only platform and form of communication where your audience gets to take you in a very intimate setting as well. People are doing their chores and listening to the podcast. They're stuck in traffic and a long drive. Rather than listening to music, they're taking you in. They're maybe they're in the gym and you're in their headphones whilst they're working out. Maybe they're getting ready for work. They're getting dressed. They're taking a shower, whatever. But podcasting is really the only platform that, or I shouldn't just say podcasting, but audio is really the only medium where you get to enter people's personal spaces and speak to them. And other forms of content just can't do that the way that audio can. Even if you're playing a video, you miss out a lot on video when you're not watching it. So yes, you could play a video and listen to the audio, but really video is visual, and they expect you to be watching the actual video in order to get what you need, right? With audio, you don't have to worry about that. So this has really been that place where I've missed getting in front of getting on the mic and speaking to you, because I know what it is. I know what it means for me, and I know what it means for the people that listen to the podcast. And one of the favorite things that I really love is when I get stopped in the streets and people say, yo, they appreciate the podcast so much. And they listen to this podcast whilst they're at work. They start their day, and the podcast, gets them through the morning. They might queue up, 1, 2, or 3 episodes, and that's, all my episodes are really almost an hour in length, so it gives them company as it gets them through the workday, so that's been one of my favorite compliments that I have received with respects to the podcast, So anyways, let's get on to the matter at hand. Today, I want to address the key components of a digital strategy. And this is a question that I have been getting asked a lot over the last month. What goes into a digital strategy? And the second question has been really, what company or business or brand is doing digital, really well, and is a good example of what a digital strategy should look like. And I've answered this question to CEOs, to boards, to brands, to artists. I've answered this question to, and everybody's looking for who is that example in the Caribbean that has a really good digital strategy. And people are shocked when I say nobody. I can't think of anybody that's doing digital well. And everybody is shocked when I say that, because like, what do you mean nobody's doing digital well? And they start naming companies that in their minds are doing digital well. And I listen, and it comes back to the answer that I end up giving them is really the same, has been the same across the board. I say, no, what they are doing is they are doing one aspect of the many aspects of a digital strategy well. And that one thing that they're doing well, they might be doing social media well. But that's one aspect of a wider spectrum. They might be doing paid advertising well. And that is one aspect of a wider spectrum. There are about, let me count. There are about 17 components of a digital strategy. There are about 17 components of a digital strategy. So when everybody's like, well, what do you mean nobody's doing digital well? I like this brand, I like this brand. And I'm like, yeah, they're doing social media well. And that's one thing out of 17. It's one thing. And they're blown away the more we talk and the more we get into it, because then they realize, and I think one of the biggest misconceptions in the Caribbean specifically is that they believe that social media means digital strategy. No, social media is social media. That's one piece. That is a subsection of a digital strategy. That is a bullet point in a digital strategy. So when I get asked who is doing digital well, again, I'm looking around. I don't see anybody doing digital well, because they might really only be doing two things of a digital strategy, maybe even three. And I think the better companies might be doing about three things well out of like the 17 points that we're going to go into. So the goal of this episode is we're going to go through the 17 key components of a digital strategy. And you're not going to get this overnight, because whilst we can talk about the bullet points, there is an entire world in each bullet point that you have to learn. And it's not going to take you a day, 2 days. It's not going to take you a week. It's not going to take you a month. It's going to take you some time, and everybody's different. So I'm not going to put a timeline on each component, but it's going to take you some time to learn how to do each component of a digital strategy well. And this is something where this is not a one-person thing, right? This is not a one-person thing. The role of a digital strategist in the company is to map out the digital strategy, but then you have individual specialists who are going to handle 2 to 3 different things of that digital strategy. And you would have a team that produces all of the things needed for your digital strategy to work. So let's get into the key components of a digital strategy. Like I said, there's about 17, all right? And I'm going to do my best to keep it short and concise, because, boy, the reality is that each component could be an individual episode where you dive in deep of, how each component works. So we're going to keep it short and concise. That way you know what is involved in a digital strategy, okay? All right. Now let me see if I remember how to do how to do this podcast thing. Right? I gotta dust off the cobwebs. Let me push this button. Let me see. Usually when I have sound effects, like there's this little electric sound effect for me that kind of just marks key points in the episode, but it also breaks up the monotony of just hearing the voice. So that's why you hear sound effects in my podcast. One, break up the monotony of my voice. Two, it's also a marker for me when I am timestamping some of these podcasts, right? Anyways, let's go. Point number 1. The first key component of your digital strategy is, what are your goals and objectives? You need to clearly define your goals and objectives that align with your overall business objectives. And what are some common goals and objectives of a digital strategy, right? Because I know, again, the first thing people are going to want to know is, again, what is point number 1? But then, okay, goals and objectives. What are some of the key goals and objectives of a digital strategy? Well, let's dive a little bit into that. So one of the first goals and objectives of a digital strategy is increase brand awareness. So building and enhancing brand awareness amongst the target audience through your digital channels, such as social media, content marketing, and online advertising. This can include increasing the visibility of the brand online and improving brand recognition and establishing a positive brand image, right? A second goal or objective could be driving website traffic, increasing the number of visitors to a website through various digital marketing tactics, such as SEO, pay-per-click advertising, social media marketing, and content marketing. This can involve attracting more relevant and qualified traffic to the website to increase the chances of conversions. The third common goal would be generating leads, capturing and nurturing leads through digital channels such as email marketing, landing pages, and lead generation forms. This can involve implementing strategies to attract and engage potential customers, collect their contact information, and move them through the sales funnel to convert them into paying customers. The fourth common goal: increase online sales or conversions. You want to be able to drive online sales or other desired conversions, such as signups, downloads, or bookings through digital marketing efforts. This can involve optimizing your website and digital assets for conversion, implementing e-commerce strategies, and using tactics such as remarketing or cart abandonment campaigns to improve your conversion rates. Number 5, enhancing customer engagement and retention. Building and maintaining relationships with customers through digital channels, such as social media, email marketing, and personalized content. This can involve fostering customer loyalty and encouraging repeat purchases and enhancing customer satisfaction and retention through effective digital engagement strategies. So those are 5 key common goals and objectives that you could be focusing on with your digital strategy. It's important to note that goals and objectives are going to vary on the specific business or individual's needs and should be aligned, again, with your business objectives and strategies. Setting your measurable, realistic, and time-bound goals is essential to track progress and optimize the effectiveness of your strategy. So make note of those 5 goals or objectives when it comes to setting your goals and objectives of your digital strategy. All right. The second key component of a digital strategy is creating your target audience, identifying the specific target audience or customer segments that you are speaking to. I know it sounds very basic, but many businesses in the Caribbean have not defined who their target audience is. I know some have created their customer avatars, but the thing with customer avatars too is that it's almost like a wish list of who they want to speak to, and then they kind of, create content or create ads, because most businesses aren't creating content, but they create ads trying to target those people. But what I think needs to happen as well is you might have your wish list, but I want to encourage more businesses to get involved in data research to see exactly who the demographics are in relation to that product or service. You are able to learn how to do data research, You can tap into sources like any of the search engines to get data on your gender, the age groups, what exactly are people searching for in relation to your topic or niche. There's a lot of data that you're able to get about your target audience group, right? What platforms they're visiting, how are they finding your competitors? There's a lot of data that you can get on your target audience that you can bring to the table now to build out a more robust customer avatar, one that is utilizing your expertise or utilizing, what you envision your customers to be, but then you also backed it up with the data. Number 3, market research, and I should have market research. So through research on the market, competitors and industry trends to inform your digital strategy. So again, as I was saying with respect to target audience, your market research strategy needs to be thorough, and you need to be able to learn how to tap into the platforms that are collecting all of this data on us. Like Facebook has robust amount of data that they collect, and there are some tools that Facebook gives us that allow you to get a peek into your customers that are happening, your customers on Facebook, right? So you want to be able to tap into the search engines to get data on your customers or on your audience. And same thing, you want to learn how to use Facebook as a research tool to tap into that data. So again, you understand what is happening within your space, you understand your audience, and that can inform when you are building your customer avatar so that you can target your audience much better. The 4th component of a digital strategy is branding and messaging. Developing a consistent brand identity and messaging that resonates with your target audience. So branding is one of those components that in the Caribbean we are obsessed with. So it's one of those 3 things. So let me see. Hold on. Let me see. I would probably say there are 4 things that we focus on with respects to digital strategy. Branding and messaging is one, right? But with branding and messaging, as important as your branding is, I personally feel like we've become so obsessed with the branding in the Caribbean because it's one of the lowest hanging fruits. Like when I say lowest hanging fruits, it's something that you can just throw money at. Like I can just throw money at somebody who says they do branding and have them give me a style sheet, have them give me my brand colors, have them give me my fonts, have them create me a logo, right? And people then think that, that's it. We have a style sheet, we have a style guide, we have a logo, we have our brand colors, and, off to the races we go. And, and that's all we need is a good looking brand. And as important as branding is, I feel like we have devalued branding. We've kind of devalued it. We've overvalued it to the point where it's devaluing. Like we've overvalued it to the point where people pay so much attention to the logo and the colors of the brand that we have devalued it in the sense that we put all the time and effort into it, and then we believe that that's all we need, right? So it's important as a part of your overall digital strategy, but when you think that's all you need and you're good to go, no, you put so much time, so much money, so much effort, and you think that's all you need, and that's what's gonna do the trick to lure customers and get them into you. That's not how this works. It gets to a point where people don't care about your logo. They don't care about your brand colors. They don't care about what fonts you use. Like that's not going to stop anybody from doing business with you or building that community. There like almost no influencer. Like when you think about many of the influencers that are creating content, whether it is valuable content or not, but when you look at the people who are building communities on social media, the majority of them don't have no goddamn logo. They just have a picture of them. The majority of them are not focused on no brand colors, not looking at no fonts, So, and again, they're getting followers. They're building a community, and some of them are even, selling products or recommending services, and nobody's stopping to say, yo, this person doesn't have a logo. I can't tell what font they're using. That doesn't stop a sale. All right. So whilst it's important, yes, but it's never going to stop anybody from doing business with you. That you don't have a proper logo, that you don't have, your proper your proper your color scheme or what font. That's not going to stop a sale. All right? It's great when you have it and you can create that succinct brand identity and you get your messaging right. Great when you have it, but it's not going to stop a sale. I think messaging is probably the most overlooked thing out of everything. I think you can get away with just having a word logo. I think you can get away with not necessarily having brand colors or a brand font. I think you can definitely get away with those things. But I think your messaging to your ideal customer means way more than anything, because it's going to, how you bring across your information or how you bring across your content is going to really define the people that do follow you, or it's going to turn people off. Again, defining the people that are going to be in your community. And I think messaging really does that more than a logo and brand colors and fonts and style guides and whatnot, right? There was a time where that was super, super important. Like, you have companies like a Nike, Adidas, where again, the brand, the logo, the logos, the brand color scheme, things like that really, really mattered, right? But now today, I don't think it matters as much, but we still place so much stock into it and we kind of forget all of the other components, right? So the fourth thing is having great branding and great messaging. And whilst it's great to have a good logo, good brand colors and whatnot, I don't think it matters as much today. However, your messaging to your target audience, I think matters. I think is extremely important. Fifth key component is having a website and your online presence. Creating and optimizing of a user-friendly website and online appearance, an online presence, is mandatory. Especially when you're in the Caribbean, when we don't have any of the e-commerce features on any social media platform. You can only really sell online when you have a website, because that's the only thing that you can turn on e-commerce for. And your website does so many other things. It houses your content. It is your digital home. It is the place that you own. There's no community rules on your website. And right now we're seeing a lot of accounts getting suspended, a lot of accounts getting hacked on social media. You don't really get proper data on social media platforms. These are things that your website can do for you. So it's not just the e-commerce. It's a place where you can put all of your content, all of your company information, and don't have to worry about violating any company terms. When you set it up correctly, there's tons and tons and tons of data that you can collect on your website that allow you to enhance your business strategy and enhance your marketing strategy. Your website is mandatory with respects to building your online presence. And again, it is a part of the key cog of your digital strategy. Number 6, your content strategy. So development of a content strategy that includes creating and distributing relevant and engaging content. Folks, if you are a business, the majority of businesses in the Caribbean, and I would go as far as to say 99% of businesses in the Caribbean don't create content. They make ads. And there's a very big difference. When you create content, you are creating content that educates, it engages, it entertains. And it's not just about the product. It's about your industry. It's about your niche. It's about anything connected to your niche. And it's not just product specific. Yes, you're gonna have content about your products, and when you're creating content, your products are positioned as solutions to people's problems. But through your content, you really get to explore the problems in your niche. So for me, when I had my smartphone business and I had my store, I was focused on educating people about how smartphones work within their personal and business life and how it solves a lot of problems. And again, smartphones, your smartphone handles and solves many problems. So there was an endless amount of content that I could create. And then, when people started to ask me more about, hey, who's building your digital presence? Who's building your website? How are you doing e-commerce? How are you doing this? When more questions started to come around my digital strategy, it took a few years because I started this journey back in 2019. And it's only in later half of 2022 where I really started to focus on, being a digital strategist. And I started to really learn more not learn more about digital strategy. I mean, you're always learning because your digital strategy is changing every single day. You wake up, there's a new app. You wake up, a platform has changed. So you're learning every single day. You're never going to stop learning. But I think what I'm really trying to say is in 2022 is really when I made the conscious decision to say, hey, you know what? I really relish the fact that people, come to me for advice in building their digital platforms. Also, they come to me to provide a service in building segments of their digital strategy. And I really enjoy that. So, I think I want to double down on being a digital strategist and getting, my certifications in order so that, as much as I have the experience and I have the hands-on experience in building digital strategies, I also wanted to double down on getting my certifications in order. That way I have the best of both worlds. So I'm both a certified digital strategist, plus I have a portfolio of the work I've done with respects to digital strategy. All right. Moving on to number 7, social media strategy. So remember I said I think that of the 17 components, companies do about 4. The first thing that I think companies do well in the Caribbean is that branding. The second thing that companies really do with respects to digital strategy is having a social media strategy. They develop a social media strategy that aligns with business objectives and engages the target audience. Now, some of them don't necessarily have a well thought out or well planned social media strategy, right? They're just kind of just posting their products and prices, and most of the businesses are not even posting prices, but they're posting their products on social media, or they're engaging influencers to create content so that they can post on social media, or they create their flyers and just, get a digital version of the flyer and dump it on social media, right? The majority of businesses are kind of just doing that. But they're still at least on social media. They're still, building a social media presence, right? So social media is a component of the digital strategy. And again, it's the second thing that I think companies are actually doing. Whether they do it well or not, subjective, but at least, again, it's the second thing that I believe they're doing in the entire Caribbean. Number 8 is search engine optimization. So that's the 8th component of a digital strategy. And again, a lot of these things are not in order. I'm just laying it out for you, but they're not in order, but these are the key components of that digital strategy. So number 8 would be SEO, search engine optimization. Optimization of your website and content to improve search engine rankings and increase organic visibility. Remember, your content on social media has a shelf life. Every single social media channel has a shelf life for content. And that shelf life, once it doesn't do well within a particular time frame, it gets buried in the social media algorithms. And on most platforms, after 7 days, your content is pretty much as good as done. Even the best performing content, stops generating traffic after 7 days, right? But with your website, and when you are, utilizing an SEO strategy and optimizing it, when you go on any of the search engines and you type in your question or your keyword, it's going to be pulling the most relevant information and giving it to you as a response. And that information would have been done or could have been done years ago. There is no shelf life on content on your website. And that is why your organic traffic, if you can build up organic traffic on your website or on any platform that social media, not social media, if you can build up organic traffic on any platform that search engines index, that is why you're always going to be able to build traffic to that content over years at a time, right? There is no shelf life. Social media, doesn't matter what the platform is, there is a shelf life for all content on social media. But once a search engine is indexing your content, so one of the number one things is when you type in a question or query, when you look at the results, it's usually a link to a website where the content is hosted on the website. There's no shelf life on that. As long as you are creating content that people are searching for and you learn how to optimize that content to show up on page one, then your content will always be viewed years over time. And the best part about that is because Google or all the search engines have geolocation turned on, it's always going to show you content within the country first before it ever shows you content outside of the country. And because we in the Caribbean, the majority of businesses and brands do not have websites, it's always showing us information outside of the Caribbean, and a lot of that information is irrelevant to us because the rules, the laws, the regulations are all different, right? This is your opportunity to really take a big chunk of the pie to build your platform, get your content on your websites, learn some SEO so you could optimize it and show up on page one. That way you can start to gather organic traffic within your space, because I guarantee you, whatever industry you are in, even if the people have websites, the majority of them do not do any form of SEO optimization. I could tell you that. And, they're not showing up on page one, or if they are, it's not too hard to get your content showing up on page one. When you're in countries like the US, Canada, UK, where this is second nature for over 10 plus years now, the competition to rank on page one is very high. The competition to rank on page one in the entire Caribbean is there's no competition. It's easy. But again, you have to actually do the work. You actually have to have a website. You actually have to create content. You then have to optimize that said content, right? So SEO is that 8th component of a digital strategy. Number 9, and this is the third thing that Caribbean businesses are doing, that's paid advertising. Implementation of a paid advertising campaign such as pay-per-click, PPC, advertising to drive targeted traffic. So people are, jumping on Google. They're doing ad campaigns on Google, on Google Ads, or maybe they're doing, paid advertising on social media to boost. I can't even say content because, again, most businesses are not creating content, but they are boosting their posts. And a lot of those posts are usually just product posts or services posts. Maybe they have an event and they're throwing money, but they're throwing ad spend behind that and trying to get people to sign up or engage on their products and whatnot, right? So paid advertising is that third thing that I believe Caribbean businesses are doing. Again, whether they're doing it well or not, that is subjective, but that is the third of the 4 things I believe that they are doing with respects to this 17-point digital strategy. Number 10 is email marketing, development of an email marketing strategy to engage with customers and nurture their leads. One of the number one ways to gather signups to your email marketing tool is usually through your website. And again, the majority of businesses do not have websites. And when you don't have websites, that really has been the number one way to collect emails to your email list. Most businesses don't have websites, right? I mean, you can definitely create a landing page. Like if you're using any form of email marketing software, you can definitely create a landing page and then add that as a link in social media. But again, most businesses are not even doing that. They're not even creating a landing page in their email marketing tools and then adding that link on social media so that they can at least drive social media traffic to their email list. Remember, your email list has no algorithm. It allows you to create content and you can nurture your people, nurture your leads, nurture people on your email list. And the more you build that list, you can get a percentage of those people committing to sales. All right. So email marketing, most businesses do not have email marketing as a part of their digital strategy in the entire Caribbean. Very, 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 very few. Again, whether they're doing it well or not, subjective. I won't dive into that. But the majority of the businesses are not doing email marketing at all. All right. So number 11, the 11th component is data analytics and measurement. The implementations of tools and techniques to measure and analyze your digital marketing efforts and make data-driven decisions. Again, most businesses don't have websites, so they're not collecting any of the robust data that's available to us that we can collect. And they're only looking at the data that is provided to them from social media or third-party tools. But again, even with the best third-party tool, the data that it gives you from social media is not that great. It's not that great. There's not many things you can do with that data. That's because the social media platforms keep the best data for themselves. And the real data that you can get to really improve your business making decisions or your marketing decisions is the data that you are going to be able to collect on your own platforms. The data that you get on social media is very minimal. Very, very minimal, very surface level data. There's not much you can do with the data that you get. And the problem that we have is even when I say that, and you have people who are like, well, yo, we invest in Hootsuite and in Sprout Social and this, that, and the third. Listen, I use all those tools as well. And guess what? The data that I get from those platforms compared to the data that I get from the tools that are integrated into my website is very, very minimal. Very, very minimal. And in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really help me. Like, I get it, like I collect it, but it's very surface level information. So even if you're using the best tools and that's collecting data on social media, the information that you get from those tools is super surface level compared to the data that we get from our tools that integrate with our website or any of these search engine optimization data tools. Man, you almost never want to look at the data that you get from social media. It's just super surface level, right? So data analytics and measurement, implementing those tools and techniques to measure and analyze your digital marketing efforts to make data-driven decisions. Again, that's not something that many businesses are doing at all. And the ones that are typically only collecting data from social media, and that data is super, super surface level. Number 12 component of a digital strategy is a mobile strategy. Development of a strategy to optimize your digital presence for mobile users, including mobile-friendly websites and mobile apps. Is your website mobile friendly? Again, the majority of businesses don't have a website. And a lot of them that do have websites, the websites are not mobile friendly, right? And well, because of the expense to create mobile apps in the Caribbean, most companies are not developing an app. But apps really are going to be reserved for the largest of businesses in the Caribbean that have the funds to build and maintain an app. Building an app is not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of costs and strategy that goes into mobile app. But again, mobile strategy. Are you building mobile friendly websites, or do you have a mobile application? That way you can really, we're spending the majority of our time on our mobile devices. We are consuming the internet from our mobile devices. Is your digital presence optimized for mobile devices? All right. Again, most businesses don't have websites, nor do they have an app. That flows right into number 13, user experience and conversion rate optimization. Are you optimizing your website and digital assets for a seamless user experience and improved conversion rates? I'll repeat that. Are you optimizing your website and digital assets for a seamless user experience and improved conversion rates? So all of the search engines are measuring whether your website is mobile friendly. And the websites that are not mobile friendly are getting booted to page 3 and beyond on the search engine platforms. When you have somebody coming on your platform and the experience is not good and it's not optimized for mobile, people tend to not do business on your platform because the experience on it from their mobile devices is not good. If you have to be pinching to zoom when you visit somebody's website on your mobile device, nobody wants to go through that. You start to click, multiple things. It's just an absolute nightmare when you're trying to navigate some of these people's platforms from your mobile device. So again, user experience and conversion rate optimization is a huge component of your digital strategy. Number 14. E-commerce and online sales. Are you developing an e-commerce strategy and online sales channels for selling your products and services online? Again, social media in the Caribbean, none of those social media platforms have e-commerce turned on for the entire region. So the only way to sell online through e-commerce is to have an e-commerce ready website. And the majority of you guys don't have no website. So no, you don't have an e-commerce strategy and there's no way for you guys to sell online. Using a Google form to collect an order and then send somebody a bank deposit information, that's not selling online, folks. That's not an e-commerce strategy, okay? If you have a website and that is automated so people can select bank payment as a checkout and the sales process is automated and then people can now automatically respond to an email with their proof of confirmation, and then you get that back and then you can approve it in the back end to release that sale or collect that information, yeah, that's a part of your e-commerce strategy. But if you're just using a Google form, and again, you have to then manually send people information, that's not a good user experience. That's not a good e-commerce. That's not a good e-commerce strategy, all right? So most businesses don't have websites and therefore do not have an e-commerce strategy to sell their products and services online. 15, technology and infrastructure. Again, following up from e-commerce, technology and infrastructure. Are you assessing and implementing any necessary technology and infrastructure to support your digital marketing efforts? This really should be number one because I think in order to have an actual strategy for anything digital, you need to assess what pieces of technology and infrastructure do you need in order to start to, because you have to build out all of those pieces first before you can create a strategy, a digital marketing strategy. You can't create a mobile strategy, an e-commerce strategy, a UX strategy. You can't create a lot of these things if you don't have a website. All right. So to me, if I know I said this is not really in order, but I think the first thing you really have to do is you need to assess. It could be the first or second thing because the first thing could be identifying your goals and objectives, right? But 1 and 2 needs to be that, your objectives and goals, and 2, assessing your technology and infrastructure. What are we going to need to be able to do any of these things? You can't do email marketing if you're not utilizing any email marketing software. You can't do e-commerce if you don't have a website. You can't do SEO if you don't have a website. You can't do a content strategy if you don't have things like your podcast, if you don't have a website for web content, or, if you don't have a YouTube channel so that you can host your videos. Like, you need to be able to assess all of the things you're going to need in order to actually execute a digital marketing strategy. Number 16, budget and resource allocation. Allocation of your budget and resources to various digital marketing channels and tactics based on business goals and priorities. You need to know what your budget looks like. And for me, when you're listening to me, I'm always trying to show you the cheap ways to get started or the free ways to get started, because I know a lot of the businesses that are listening to the podcast are small business owners that don't necessarily have big budgets to go and just spend on things, right? And the information is still relevant because if you are an enterprise or corporate level size company that is listening to this, then you can take all of the information that we're talking about and any of the free things I'm talking about, you can utilize their paid versions, or you can find some of the other tools and platforms that are more within line with your level of business, and you can afford to spend money on those platforms. So analyzing your budget and resource allocation so that you can understand, what you can invest in is obviously going to be a key component of your digital strategy. Which then brings us to number 17. The 17th component of a digital strategy is measuring and reporting. Regular assessment and reporting of key performance indicators, your KPIs, to evaluate the success of the digital strategy to make data-driven adjustments as needed. Okay? Now, you always have to keep in mind that digital changes damn near every day, right? Your digital strategy has to be flexible and adaptable with regular monitoring and adjustments based on the changing landscape and the needs of the business. Remember, these things can never be set in stone because all of the platforms that we use are owned by some of these billionaires that wake up. They have a dream and, they wake up and make a decision that changes everything about how you leverage that platform. We're waking up every single day and we are seeing changes being done to Twitter, being done to Facebook, being done to Instagram, and those are changing how and if you can even use those platforms moving forward. We woke up in 2023 and all of a sudden we have to learn all of these different AI tools, and that's affecting how we do our digital marketing strategy. So you have to be super mindful and flexible in your digital marketing strategies, because the platforms and tools that we use every single day to conduct business online are changing every single day. And the reason I say every single day is because there's so many different facets of digital, and one component of that digital marketing strategy, of that digital strategy, is changing. One thing changes every single day. And that might be a minor change that might make you have to look at it and say and determine whether or not this is something you need to pay attention to, or you can ignore, or shucks, we have to change a part of our process and how we do business. Something is going to affect your entire digital strategy every single day. All right? The rate of change, because we have to monitor so many facets. Remember, before marketing became digital, you were really just only monitoring what you were doing in papers, radio, and TV. What you had to monitor was a lot smaller. Now there's so many more channels that we have to monitor. Right? There's so many more tools, so many more platforms, so many things, there are so many factors that can throw off something else in our strategy that we have to be aware of. All right. So again, we didn't want to dive in too deep on each of these components because each of these components really and truly could be an entire episode of their own where we dive in deep on this section. But I wanted to give you guys an episode that really broke down the key components of a digital strategy. Because the majority of businesses still believe that a digital strategy is social media. And to do well on social media, we need to have a nice logo. We need to have brand colors. We need to run ads. And we need to just post our products. And if we have additional budget, let's engage an influencer to have them create some irrelevant video for our product or service. And, hopefully we tap into their audience and get some sales from them. So when I get asked who is doing digital well, the reason why I say nobody is because now that you have 17 things to look for, I want you to start looking at other companies and start evaluating who is doing 15 out of the 17 things, because the majority of these things you can see without needing some special tool to look at their back end. You can see whether they're doing this just by monitoring their brand. So you can start to look whether or not they are doing this. And again, some things when you realize they're not doing this, that means they can't be doing some of these other things. So again, just knowing that there's no e-commerce features turned on for social media, I know if you do not have a website, then that means you have no e-commerce strategy, right? You don't have a website, you don't have an SEO strategy. You're not focused on building your website or focusing on your online presence. All right? You don't have a website. You probably don't have a UX or customer or conversion rate optimization strategy. So again, when you don't have some of these key components, we already know you're not doing any of the other things that tie into that. All right? So those are 17 key components of a digital strategy. I hope this was really helpful. This is really a checklist for you to now start to focus on building out these assets, and also what you can start to learn. What courses can you start to take to learn how to do a lot of these components? Because again, it's going to take you some time to learn how to do each of these components. It's not going to be an overnight thing. Some of these things, the only way to get it overnight, like you can set up email marketing overnight. You can build a basic website in a day, 2 days, right? But to learn how to effectively use it and create a strategy so that it's actually makes sense for the business is a completely different thing. All right. So that is it for today's episode. Right. That's it for today's episode. And this is actually episode number 124. All right. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget that you could drop a rating on any of the podcast platforms you're listening to. If you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, you can rate the podcast platform. You could rate the podcast. I do love to see the reviews. Drop a review if you truly enjoy what we're doing over here on the Digipreneur FM podcast. I read the reviews. They help me to continue to create the content that you need in order to build your digital presence and monetize your platforms. All right. And it also helps to grow the Digipreneur FM family, because the people that are thinking about listening to the podcast are going to look at the reviews, they're going to look at the ratings before they decide. And this information is information that people need to help them in order to grow, especially here in the Caribbean region and the diaspora. All right. You can also follow me on social media on TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I use Twitter sparingly at Keron Rose, KeronRosc. Don't forget, you could check out the website, KeronRose.com, link to that in the show notes, to learn more about building your digital presence and a lot more. All right. Have yourself a happy Monday and enjoy the rest of your week. And again, we're going to get back into the swing of things, and you're going to start getting more consistent content again on the podcast as we move forward, because there's so much to talk about. All right, folks, enjoy the rest of your week and take care.
You've been listening to the Digiboss, Keron Rose. We hope your notepad was filled after this episode. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. The learning doesn't stop, folks. And to make sure you don't miss any gems from the Digiboss, go over and follow him on all social media platforms at Keron Rose. Folks, don't just sit there with a notepad. We need you to implement at least one thing into your business before the next episode. That's the only way your business levels up. Thanks for listening to Digipreneur FM. Now go be great.